Well, hello, and welcome to your weekly dose of higher consciousness, where every week my intention is to help you learn how to be happy and love yourself by going through the process of understanding levels of consciousness and how to let go of lower levels. My name is Liz Garcia. I'm your happy host and trumpeter of truth. And today I'm covering a topic about happiness that I promised you a few episodes ago. And what we're going to do today is we're going to understand how to be happy and take notes from the Elle Woods playlist from the movie Legally Blonde. Now, if you haven't seen the movie Legally Blonde, you got to check it out because it's so much fun, it's loving, it's of higher consciousness. And in fact, it calibrates at 350 on the map of consciousness, if my memory serves me. I'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's where it is. And 350 is a very high level of consciousness, and it's the level of acceptance. And before we get into our topic today about Elle Woods and her unconditionally loving and happy ways, there's two other things we're going to do first. And that is, we're going to talk about Dr. Hawkins' 101 Ways to Happiness. I always share one of these because there's 101 of them. So we got 2 years worth of good fodder. And today, number 15 on Dr. Hawkins' 101 Ways to Happiness, which, by the way, you can find in his book, The Book of Slides, which I'll show to you people that are watching the video. This is his book of slides that you can get on his website at veritaspub.com. or Amazon or wherever you shop for books. So today's 101 Ways to Happiness is tip number 15. This is a good one, and I'm guilty of this one. So you have to learn to stop saying, have conditions on your happiness, meaning saying like, if I get this, then I'll be happy. If I lose the weight, then I'll be happy. If I go to school at this college, then I'll be happy, or whatever it is. Fill in the blank, and then I'll be happy. It's a good idea to cancel that. And I'm going to read right out of Dr. Hawkins' book because he's a wise one and brilliant. So if you cancel, you stop saying that, and you're accepting that your happiness is not provisional about anything except the direction that you're going now. So you'd say something like, I'm going in this direction, I'm choosing spiritual evolution as a lifestyle, or I'm choosing happiness as a lifestyle. Same thing. Happiness is a very high level of consciousness at 395 on the map. I'm choosing this, and it gives my life meaning and significance, and serving God in every way that I can. Now, if serving God makes you cringe, that's okay. You're serving life in every way that you can. You're serving your life in every way that you can. Fill in the blank with what feels good to you. So the affirmation is kind of like, I'm going in a direction, and the direction is towards happiness. And you may fall off the road, pull over on the side to a rest area, get a little angry or whatever it is, and then pull back on the road to happiness. Once you make that inner decision, the compass is set, and have faith that the compass is set with that intention. So one way you serve God is by being happy, period. You serve all of life by being happy and understanding that level of consciousness is an energy power that comes from you. It is coming out of you, and it's acting like the drop of water in the ocean. It has a rippling effect, a very powerful rippling effect to be happy. So God's will for you is happiness. And in fact, God's will calibrates at 850 on the map of consciousness, which is way beyond most people's awareness of what that even feels like. I've had the tremendous grace to have been in the presence of 850, or what I have come to kind of figure out was 850. It's amazing grace. And if you think God's will for you is punishing, you're mistaken. God's will is huge, and it's beyond most of our capacity to even imagine. So God knows that just being happy is enough. It's a good start, especially for our evolving planet. So to be happy is pleasing to God. I mean, not that, you can be anywhere you want, and God's still going to love you regardless. God's demand is that you be happy. Calibrates as true, however. God's demand is that you be happy. That's interesting. That calibrates as true. So being happy is fulfilling your human potential, and we are created in that style by Almighty God. So make the happiness independent of phenomena, meaning be happy regardless of what's going on around you and what's going on in other people's lives. You don't have to clutch and grasp at things. Let go of clutching and grasping at things, and that is a good way to loosen them up. And this is actually the next tip, but I went a little further. It's kind of all related. So that's this week's 101 Ways to Happiness, right? Cancel the statement, I'll have this, or I'll do this, and I'll change this, and then I'll be happy. Forget about that. Stop doing that. Put a big, cancel that. And next up in today's weekly dose of higher consciousness is our weekly higher consciousness quiz. And this is a lot of fun. And it's a great way to put everything into context. And Dr. Hawkins' research has shown that just presenting things in context is going to raise your level of consciousness. So now you have context. Like, where is their power? So today's consciousness calibration quiz is, which is of highest consciousness? Let me see my little list here. Is it altruism? Is it capitalism? Or is it humanism? And these are all philosophies. They're all different types of philosophies. And so we're going to learn something about philosophies today. And they all are of higher consciousness, but there is one that is of highest consciousness. So we'll have the answer to that one at the end, and definitions as to what each one of those means. So I've got my coffee. Let me have a little sip. And we're going to talk about today's topic, which is paying attention to the movie Legally Blonde. And we're going to talk about other consciousness calibrations of other movies, which, if you get the book Truth VS Falsehood, I'll show people that are watching this on the video, Truth VS Falsehood by Dr. Hawkins. This is a great encyclopedia of consciousness calibrations, really. It's really puts, and it's an easier read. Power versus Force, which is his original book, which I'm holding up for you viewers, can be a challenge for many people to read because consciousness is kind of, a hard to abstract topic. So just starting with Truth versus Falsehood, if you're struggling with Power versus Force, is a great way just to go to all the different categories of calibrations and start looking at them. And it'll start putting things into context for you, like where's there's power, where is it destructive, lots of great calibrations in here. And at the end of Truth versus Falsehood is the calibrations of movies, which is tons of fun. So I'm going to read some of those to you at the end as well. So I'm going to talk about the movie Elle Woods. Legally Blonde. And the character played by Reese Witherspoon is Elle Woods. And she's a powerhouse, a sweet, loving powerhouse, nonetheless. And I've noticed all throughout my life, I've noticed patterns in people. And call me goofy, but when I watch movies, I now can kind of pick out levels of consciousness of what's going on in movies. It's kind of, I'm kind of goofy like that. I enjoy the whole topic of putting things into context and paying attention to the levels of consciousness going on in the movie. And it was really fascinating to me to watch Wonder Woman. That's an excellent study in consciousness to watch what's going on there, because there's superpowers going on with her. of course. But I have a snack too. I'm a little hungry. So Wonder Woman's a great study in consciousness, and she's operating from a very high level of consciousness, not of this world typically, which is no surprise. I mean, it can be. There are people of this extreme high consciousness in the world, but they're rare. So let's talk about Legally Blonde. Highly recommend the movie if you want a good lift. It's a lot of fun, super sweet. And when I was watching this movie, the movie opens up with Reese Witherspoon, her name is Elle Woods in this, at her sorority house in California. And if you perceived sororities in a negative light, which I have in the past, and I know others have too, it's just a perception. It's a misperception. Not to say that all sororities are like Elle Woods' sorority, but in the opening scene, you'll see that all of the sisters in this sorority are loving, supportive, thankful to each other, loyal to each other. It's really a beautiful thing to see this in a different light. Like, wow, this is really a community going on here of loving, supportive women. And lovingness calibrates at 500 on the map of consciousness. To be loving is huge. It's really huge. To be loyal calibrates at 345. Again, another powerhouse level of consciousness. Intelligence, as the movie progresses, Elle wants to follow her boyfriend to Harvard, and he's kind of all snooty and kind of elitist about it, and treating her like a woman. He's kind of chauvinistic, thinking, you know, how are you going to get into Harvard, right? So she's intelligent. She got into Harvard. She's got to be in the 400s even to pass the tests to get into Harvard. So I'm just paying attention. All of us are a mixed bag of consciousness. Elle Woods is no different. She's got lower levels of doubt and uncertainty and things like that. But she's really unconditionally loving and joyful, which is huge. That calibrates at 540 on the map of consciousness. I would call that a pretty strong suit of hers. And it's a rare individual that calibrates this high, but she's, you know, she's a mixed bag, but she's got this energy running through her for sure. The unconditional love and joy of everyone she meets, and acceptance. She's accepting of everybody and trusting. Acceptance calibrates at 350 on the map of consciousness. And it's what Dr. Hawkins would call a spiritual gateway, because at this level, you have to be willing to accept you're the creator of your own experience. You've got to own it, take responsibility for your life, stop pointing and blaming others and being victim to anything. And if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to break through your level of consciousness at this level. You'll be brought back down and shown that you're still playing the victim somewhere, right? If you're trying to do a breakthrough to a pure level of 350 and above, things are going to show up that are not in alignment with that level, and you're going to have to address them. And, you know, when I first heard this, I'm like, I have no interest in taking responsibility. Well, I do have interest in taking responsibility for my life, but I didn't want to accept that I was the creator of my own experience, because I've created quite a bit that I wasn't too pleased with. So Elle Woods is, I think she's got acceptance down pretty solidly. And she's clearly the creator of her own experience. She just goes and does. You know, she decided she's going to follow her boyfriend to Harvard. She went and did what she had to do it. And she did it with pretty much ease and grace. And there's something about her that I just came across this morning. I've never seen this consciousness calibration. It's called Valor. And Valor is the courage to be oneself. And she's got a lot of girly things going on. Girly, you know, kind of flighty, fashionista type of persona going on. But she doesn't, it's a non-issue for her. She is completely being who she is. And to have the courage to be oneself calibrates at 505. So Elle Woods got a lot of high vibes going on within her, even though she's a mixed bag. I'm like, whoa, she is valorous. And if you see her other movies, she does not apologize for having pink resume. She does not apologize for having to get her hair cut and her nails polished and to look beautiful. And by the way, to love and appreciate yourself and take the time to look and present yourself to the world in a beautiful, polished manner without shooting all over yourself about it or perfectionism. She's not running this perfectionism energy. She's just running love. And to take care of yourself is loving towards yourself and how you present yourself to others. So other ways of being that Elle Woods has got running, which is pretty clear throughout the movie and her interactions with everyone, is that she's highly supportive, which is kind of a basic spiritual foundation at 245 on the map. She's happy. I don't know if I told you, happy is 395. She's clearly happy. And she's running very high energies and higher levels of consciousness at 395. She's genuine at 255. And what's really interesting about her is she will not say a mean word about anyone or even swear. And I had an experience where I was running high levels of consciousness through me. Inner joy and love were running through me. It was an amazing grace of an experience. And I noticed that the formulation of a swear word is kind of weird to describe, but a swear word would kind of formulate and the energy would just dissolve. So it would come up into my awareness and it would dissolve because that level of energy is not in alignment with that. And it's not like you shouldn't swear type of thing. It's not a punishment. It's not a judgment. It just doesn't hold a light to the light that you are. And when it shows up, it's just like, whatever, it floats away like a feather. It's like it doesn't exist. And Elle Woods is not, she just is this type of loving, unconditionally loving and joyful person where she would not, a swear word can't even come out of her mouth and she wouldn't even consider it. It just doesn't, it's just not part of her energy field. And there's a great calibration, which I couldn't find, but it was really interesting to find. You know that saying, if you don't have something nice to say about anybody, don't say anything. That statement calibrates at a very high level. And I forget if it's in the 300s at least, if not higher. I'm pretty sure it's the 300s, maybe the 400s. But this is an opportunity for you to stop in your tracks when you're ready to judge and criticize and say something mean or nasty about anybody. Take the Elle Woods position and be accepting and understanding that you don't know their whole story, first of all. And likely your eagerness to jump and criticize and judge and, say mean things about anyone is coming from your own inner stuff that you may not be aware of. But the energy is there for you to go spew it onto somebody else. So this is a great little practice for the week. If you don't have something nice to say about somebody, don't say anything at all. Just catch yourself ready to do it and let go of the energy or the need to react and the need to criticize. This is a great exercise in consciousness. So another thing about Elle Woods, she's super loving and appreciative. She's very grateful. She's grateful for everything. And gratitude, and this is why so many people, teachers, spiritual teachers, or anybody's like, you got to learn to be grateful. And gratitude calibrates at 540 on the map of consciousness. This is unconditionally loving and joyful energy. And it takes practice. I couldn't be grateful for quite a long time. I could be appreciative and thankful to an extent, but I couldn't be truly joyful and great loving. Now you have to let go of the lower level energies that are running that are blocking you from being grateful. That's kind of what's going on. You're blocking your ability to be unconditionally loving and grateful with other stuff. So if you can't be grateful, practice, loving appreciation. It's like, find something that you love and just lovingly appreciate it. and you'll start to loosen up the fabric of the resistance that you've got going on inside of you. So I highly recommend watching Legally Blonde and Legally Blonde 2. She's super successful, by the way, right? This is what I really want to point out. She's got high running energies that nothing gets in her way from what she wants to do. She have little stumbles here and there, but you know, her interview to get into Harvard, which is kind of funny, she's just totally being herself. There's three like intellectuals, professors that are interviewing her, and they don't know what to make of her. It's really kind of funny. And if she did not have these energies running, it was likely she wouldn't get in. But I think it's safe to say this unconditional love and loving way that she is gets her everything she wants. And she doesn't even know she necessarily wants it. She just being who she is. It's kind of amazing. So if you want to manifest big time, check the Elle Woods playbook out of Legally Blonde. Legally Blonde 2 as well is really good. It's fun. So that's it for today's topic on how to be happy. Well, that's really, I should address that. Many of you are like, I can't be like Elle Woods. And I mean, she is Susie Sunshine for sure. And that is maybe not necessarily who you came here to be. However, we all have the power within us to let go of the negativity that's blocking our inner joy, our inner self. Be valorous and courageous to be yourself. That's huge. The courage to be oneself at 505. 500 is loving. This is where you actually love yourself. You love who you are. You accept who you came here to be. And you're not willing to compromise or like give away your power, which we all do, right? You're willing to step into your own power. Elle Woods clearly steps into her own power without even thinking about it. She just does it. She's got it running in her. So there are ways, and I recommend my episode, I think it's number 10, how to let go, how to surrender resistance and let it all go and step into a more balanced, loving energy field. And I've been doing this for years. I promise you it works. It takes practice though. And I provide a lot of guidance on how to let go and the pitfalls, what to look for. And like, am I doing this right? Am I not doing this right? I talk about my experience, and I talk about it when it comes up in any of my video casts or podcasts. I like to share, you know, like I went through depression. I shared how to let go of depression, which, you know, I'm not chronically depressed, so I can't speak for people that are chronically depressed, but I like to share how I let it go and how quickly it went, how quickly the lightness came to me. Granted, I've been practicing this for a while. So you absolutely can be happy, unconditionally loving and joyful like Elle Woods, with a mixed bag of other things in there. But once you start to enter into these higher frequencies, they take over. They help dissolve and loosen up the resistance of the fabric of resistance that's going on in your life. So I promise we're going to talk about levels of consciousness of different movies. This is fun. And you got to understand that and I apologize, the sun is blazing in here this morning up in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. It's a beautiful day, beautiful November day here, warm and sunny, but the sun's blaring right at me, so I'm going to try to move around so it's not right in my face. All right, so I highly recommend the book Truth VS Falsehood. You can find it in links below. On my website, trumpeteroftruth.com, I've got links to all the books. You can find them pretty readily, or visit Dr. Hawkins' website at veritaspub.com. And Dr. Hawkins, by the way, has passed. He passed in 2012. So he's passed on the baton to me and many of us to help carry on his teachings, which are super powerful and a huge gift to this world. So the Truth VS Falsehood book at the back has consciousness calibrations of movies. Now, you got to understand, consciousness calibrations, just because something is of higher consciousness does not mean it's better at all. And on the topic of movies, we want to the consciousness calibrations are based on the content of the movie. It doesn't say anything about the quality of the production or anything like that. And an example is The Deer Hunter, which was one of my favorite movies and the most moving movie about the Vietnam War I had ever seen at the time it came out. And the content of The Deer Hunter is pretty low at 155. And that's in the realm of anger. 155 is at the level of anger, hatred, aggression, antagonism, and vengeful. Hello, it's war. So the calibrations are of the content only, not the quality of the movie. And The Deer Hunter, by the way, got nominated for, I think, 9 or so Academy Awards and won, I think, 5 of them. Amazing movie. You don't want to get sucked up into that level of consciousness, though. That's for sure. So I'm just going to pull out just a few to share. Caddyshack just came to mind. Super funny with Bill Murray out there killing all the gophers. That one calibrates at 205, which is at the level of courage. It's kind of basic. Courage is just kind of a simple, at first it's the entryway into higher levels of consciousness. So that's a feel-good movie. Let's find some other feel-good movies. Let's see. The Breakfast Club. That was a popular movie with those kids. I forget what they're called. That calibrates at 300. And 300 is almost at the level of willingness, which is kind of interesting because all of those kids are in high school detention, and they were all willing to share themselves to almost, they stepped into courage for sure. They were all stepping into courage because they were all from different kind of cliques around the school, but then they all became kind of equal when they ended up in detention together. All right, here's a surprising one. The Cat in the Hat calibrates at 130, which is not great for kids to be watching something that's about enslavement. That's a level of between enslavement, disappointing, denying, hateful anger. That kind of energy is going on there. I don't recall the movie fully, but I think the kids were left at home and the Cat in the Hat broke in and raised hell, which, that would be raising hell at 130. So when it comes to sharing movies with your kids when they're young, you do want to pay attention to the content and the level of consciousness of the content, unless it has an important story to share like The Deer Hunter did. Just gratuitous violence, not so much. So Annie Hall, that was one of my favorites with Diane Keaton, who I love. That's 355. Batman, 210. Ben-Hur, 475. That's very intellectual of higher consciousness there. Let's see something that's really high. That's pretty high, 475 for that one. A Space Odyssey, 440. A Beautiful Mind, 375. Let's see ones that are really low. Bonnie and Clyde, 105. Murder is not of higher consciousness at all. It's frightening and punitive at 105, right? Let's see. E.T., of course, that's a feel-good movie, 375. It's a Wonderful Life, 450, of course. Jimmy Stewart and That Christmas Story, you can't beat it. Let's see some other good ones. The Godfather, Part 1 and 2, 155. Murder, aggression, killing going on there. It's a good idea to take a look at these things. I'm trying to find one. I know that Forrest Gump is a super high vibe for sure. Saving Private Ryan, another beautifully produced movie, content calibrates at 195, which is no surprise. We're dealing with war and stuff that's going on there. All right. Gone with the Wind, 400. Get the book. You can read them all, but it's great. It's great to see everything put into context. So that's our movie consciousness calibrations today. let's go back to our quiz. And the question is, which is of highest consciousness? Altruism, capitalism, or humanism? And let me find my, I have definitions of all of that too, because I had to look it up. I kind of know, but I didn't fully know. And I put the definitions here. So have you guessed which one is of highest consciousness? This might be an easy one today. And if you guessed altruism, you'd be correct. That is of highest consciousness at 435 on the map. And this is the land of the intellect and reason. And let me just tell you the definition of altruism from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. It is unselfish regard for or devotion to the welfare of others, charitable acts motivated purely by altruism. And animals can be altruistic too. This is interesting. Behavior by an animal that is not beneficial to or may be harmful to itself, but that benefits others of its species. Animals can be altruistic. Of course, a mother and its cub or its child, really interesting. Okay, capitalism calibrates at 340 on the map of consciousness. And capitalism gets a bum rap because, people judge or criticize capitalists. But guess what? At 340, capitalism is highly constructive, productive, positive aspect-oriented part of life and necessary, if you ask me. Otherwise, how do we have all the goods and services that we need to have the life that we all lead without capitalism? So let me define capitalism for you. You make it kind of neutral in case there's a charge there. And if there's a charge, it's because you've got money issues running or unworthiness issues or some issues with, money is the root of all evil, whatever, that's garbage. Money is not the root of all evil. It's your perception of it that is. So capitalism is an economic system characterized by private or corporate ownership of capital goods, by investments that are determined by private decision, and by prices, production, and the distribution of goods that are determined mainly by competition in a free market. All right, so that's what capitalism is at 340. And the last one on the list is humanism, which I didn't really know what humanism was, but it calibrates at 365, which is the same level of consciousness as faith, which is kind of interesting. Also, capitalism at 340 is the energy level of loyalty, which, just to give you, put it into context, capitalism is running the same level of energy as loyalty, and humanism is running the same level of energy as faithfulness. So humanism, the definition of humanism, there's a bunch of them. It's devotion to human welfare, which is no wonder. It's also a doctrine, an attitude, or a way of life centered on human interests or values, especially a philosophy that usually rejects supernaturalism and stresses an individual's dignity and worth and capacity for self-realization through reason. So that's our consciousness calibrations quiz for this week. And we're going to wrap it up here. If you, I'm not quite sure what next week's is going to be, but I think I need to cover another level of consciousness because we've already done courage, and we're going to do the level of consciousness of neutrality next. And I'm pretty sure that'll be next week's. If not, you'll have a nice surprise when you tune in next week. If you're loving this or enjoying this or have questions or comments or have some interest in me doing other topics, please send me an email to liz@trumpeteroftruth.com or comment below wherever you're watching this on a blog post, video, YouTube, podcast, wherever. You can comment. Feel free to comment. I'll check them. And if you enjoy what's going on here and you'd like to listen on a podcast, you can go to trumpeteroftruthradio.com and subscribe there on any of your apps, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, we're all over the place. And you Google your weekly dose of higher consciousness. If you're searching, you're going to search for that, or you just go directly to trumpeteroftruthradio.com. And on YouTube, we're at trumpeteroftruth.tv.com. So you can find us there. And I'd like to wind up every podcast with this. Love is the truth. Love is where true power exists. And it calibrates, it starts at 500. That's a quantum leap into true power, true meaning, true spiritual connection or understanding. And it's the level of entering into the spiritual domain, which is why most of us will not accept that love is the truth for having even any awareness of it. It's so far beyond our current experience. And the planet calibrates at 207. So you can see this, that's a quantum leap. 207 to 500 is 10 to the 207th power versus 10 to the 500th power. And if you know your logs, that's a huge quantum leap. But love is the truth, gang. I'm sticking with it. Use the mind and the understanding of the mind to start aligning with the truth. It's like, go with the love, baby. Go with the love. See you next week.